All right, welcome as you join. We're going to give the attendees a few more minutes to get started. If you can confirm you're seeing my screen and hear my audio, please let me know. All right, good. As we start, this webinar is being recorded and it will be shared over our channels. So in case someone from your organization is not able to attend today, you'll have it to share later. Let's get started. My name is Gabriel Sang. I'm product specialist here at Techdinamics, and today we're going to have a webinar on optimizing last mile delivery for customer satisfaction. This is a critical topic that when it comes to performance, that's what actually makes the difference at the end and give you edge over the competition. Today we have companies like Amazon transforming the whole paradigm of small parcel shipping and keeping up to pace with that type of service. It can be a great challenge. And as everyone in the industry moves towards that direction, it's critical to have the right tools to be able to do so. So today we're going to talk about these topics, and we're going to see a couple of examples for it. But we're going to make focus on these four key elements. First of all, service levels and performance. Then we're going to talk a little bit about service levels and cost impact. So basically, two sides of the coin. Performance has a cost over it, and that cost has an impact in your business. So we're going to talk a little bit about those two things. And then leaving theory and going a little bit more into practice, we're going to talk a little bit about advanced restrictions within TechSHIP for you to achieve your service goals and how rate shopping can be done based on your customers' needs together with advanced restrictions. So let's speak about the obvious first, but lay a base on what we're going to discuss. So service levels and performance are again critical into not only to compete in the industry, but also depending on what you're shipping, right? Um, Depending on the types of goods you ship, you might require specific services that actually make a useful and able way to ship these items towards their destination. For example, somebody shipping perishable goods or any good that could be damaged or degrade as it moves forward across the supply chain might need specific services for that. Okay, and typically, if we were to break the courier services into three main families, that would be ground being the slowest one, express being a little bit faster with different options as well, and then we have next and same day services, which could be either handled by the same carrier or several carriers as part of a chain, right? For example, when we speak ground, typically what comes to mind is FedEx ground, UPS ground, or UPS standard in Canada. But when we think about express, well, there could be options that are air services, options that could be ground services with different thresholds for service times. And when we talk about next or same day, could be the same company that does ground and express, or could be a last mile carrier, for example, right? And within TechShip, you can have all these coexist and define rules and settings that allow them to compete against each other. So, for example, if you would ship via, let's say UPS, right, across the whole country, And then you have a last mile carrier in one of the regions, say West Coast, and another in the East Coast. You could have all these set up under a client profile in TechShip and have this rate shop. And if the order goes to the West Coast, you're going to have UPS rate shopping against the West Coast last mile carrier. While if it goes to the East Coast, you have the same scenario, but with the East Coast last mile carrier, right? So by doing these combinations of couriers and services, you can achieve the levels of performance that you need. Also, but we're going to talk about that later. Over here, we're just in a theoretical plane. You could use rules to adapt the services of these carriers to the specific needs that your client has. But the thing is that everything related to performance typically has a price for it. Okay, so the more performance you look for, the more you have to pay for typically. Okay, so that's why service levels and the cost impact are important as well. Because when we talk about the cost impact of service levels, typically our linear thinking takes us to the faster the service, the more expensive it is. When sometimes you could have potential savings into making smart use of different carrier combinations or different service usages. Okay, so where is the cost? Okay, for services you could have and now thinking about the diagram, going back to this slide, okay, where we have, let's say, a score, a speed score for each one of the families of services, ground, express, and same day. Over here, in this particular slide, we have the cost, okay? So we're gonna analyze it from bottom to top. So where you have the most cost is where there's a direct relationship between the service and the cost. Okay, so for example, if you're shipping an order, let's say UPS ground, from let's say the state of Florida to the state of California, um, that's going to take a lot of time, but it's going to be cheap. Okay, but if you do it next day air, it's going to cost a lot of money, most likely many times what ground should have cost, but you'll get a much better service, much faster service available to compete when it comes to performance, but not when it comes to cost. Okay. So that direct relationship or relation between uh, service speed and or coverage and the cost is what makes you spend the most money. Now, within the realm of direct relation of cost and service, you could have unspotted opportunities to save some money. Okay. So, for example, if you there are some carriers which, for the same area, they could offer, depending on you. There's a high dependency for this example on your negotiated rates. Okay, so even though we have a generic approach in this analysis, there's a high dependency of what you could or could not do depending on what you have negotiated with the carrier. Okay. But if you have negotiated rates for different things, could be weights, volume, zones, okay? Sometimes you might have unspotted opportunities to get a faster service for the same money. Sometimes I've seen cases even less than regular services, okay? So those unspotted opportunities are the ones that you have to sit down and configure in TechShip. So TechShip knows what kind of agreements and negotiate rates you have under a specific carrier and for which services and which conditions, so you can make the best out of those opportunities that might not be in direct relation with a regular scenario. Okay. And then we come to where you save the most or spend the less, which is cost optimization. Okay. In this case, it is possible to do cost optimization. Sometimes you might need to sacrifice a little bit of service and speed. But again, what you can do with cost optimization strategies is to define your rules and define your schema for shipping based on either specific needs your customers might have, your business goals, as well as the combination of both your customers' needs and your business goals. Okay, so cost optimization is critical. It takes a little bit of time, but it's a good investment to define what's needed for the system to know which are the best options in the how these relate to your negotiated rates and your account usage. Okay. Now, advanced restrictions is a key element for this, for service goals, and for you to achieve them. Okay. So on the left, we have one of the scenarios. On the right, we have the other. The left one is where rate shopping, when you're rate shopping without rules, uh, typically you get the cheapest service only. There could be scenarios, for example, the one I described, having two last mile carriers on each coast or on each zone, rate shopping against a multi-zone carrier. And in that case, you might get the cheapest service and performance as well. But most of the cases, it's quite unusual to have that. Typically, the rate shopping options are not those. So if you rate shop without rules, you're gonna get the cheapest service and you're gonna save money, but you might not get the most performant service out there, which could be available. Sometimes there are margins which you might be willing to take on your back for a better service and to have a better edge on the competition or better customer satisfaction. For example, if I would have a difference of let's say 50 cents or $1 on a same day service to 2-3 day service, that might be something you might want to consider, right? But if you don't specify that in the rules, it's impossible for the system to know because the system is going to grab the cheapest option that's going to be out there. Now, when you rate shop with rules, you will get the cheapest service out of the most effective ones based on your rules. So if you, for example, say I want ground, but I want ground as long as it takes 3 days or less to ship, well, in that case, you're ensuring a specific service level goal while at the same time attempting to get the cheapest service, right? So by having these rules, you're able not only to just rate shop and try to find the cheapest option, but try to find the cheapest option within your conditions. Okay. Now, once you have set that up, which we're going to see how to do it right now and where to do it, you're going to be rate shopping based on your customers' needs. So how does this burden people processing orders at the warehouse? And the thing is that the burden is zero, because at the packing line or at the office where you're printing batches, if you're doing batch printing, you don't even need to think about these. You won't know this is running in the background. The only thing you need to do is import the order, make sure that the client billing accounts has been set up, and TechSHIP will do the automatic selection according to your rules. So a little investment of time and strategy as a starting point for your client setup and billing account setup is going to have a massive impact on first of all, if this is being handled manually at the packing line or by someone at an office printing batches, you're reducing human error on one end, and on the other side, you're not placing the person processing the orders under the burden of having to manually choose, or somehow choose different options and services, taking into account all the variables that could be involved for this rate shopping and the optimal service selection. Okay. So having said so, let's do it. Let's go into a TechSHIP environment and see what we have. So over here, I have a batch. Okay, this batch of orders, these are all domestic orders. Okay, let me quickly show you the packaging options. Okay, these are regular small parcel orders, 10 by 10 by 10, 4 pounds in this case. And in this case, it's not going too far from the ship from the origin. Okay, now let me show you how we have set up this client. This batch includes these 4 orders, okay? And the client has several carriers set up. And it has several carriers rate shopping as well. Not every one of those are rate shopping, but we'll see in a moment. Let's give it a moment to load. There we go. So we're rate shopping Canada Post, FedEx, and UPS. Oh, UPS and Compar. Now, rate shopping will return rates which are currently available and useful for the service. Okay, so if any of these accounts fails to provide for whichever reason or fails to meet our requirements, these won't be included or won't be part of the rate shopping options. Okay, now within these, let me show you in a moment. When it comes to restrictions, most are plain. They don't have any restrictions whatsoever. So what we're going to do right now is process this batch. And we're going to see the results for rate shopping and a couple more things. And then we're going to think about how we can optimize or what are the optimization possibilities for the batch. So let's process and review the results of the rate shopping. What should be there, what not, what would be an interesting option, what should be fixed up front. Let's see in a moment. So we're getting some results right now. As you can see, Canada Post got the first three with library books. This is a little bit shady already, okay? And then we have regular parcel for the second order and ground, FedEx ground for the last order, okay? Let's analyze this one, the Canada Post regular parcel, okay? Let's go to rates. And as we can see, we have Canada Post services only, okay? Transit time, we did get the best rate, $35, but we didn't get the best transit time. So in this case, regular parcel and priority, there's a huge difference between one and the other. As you can see, for regular parcel, we got 35.11. We might need to consider if we're able to sacrifice 80 cents over here, a little bit more for expedited parcel for better service and a little bit more cost. And well, priority is way over the top and express post is quite out there. But if we would need 2-day service, for example, for this carrier, sorry, for this client, let's say the client is shipping chocolate, right? And we are afraid that in summer the chocolate might go bad if it takes too long, or it shouldn't ship over the weekends, right? Otherwise, it's gonna sit in a truck throughout the whole weekend, and on Monday we're not gonna get really good feedback from the customers once they get the deliveries, right? So I could define some rules here that might cost me a little bit more, but might meet the service options, sorry, the service levels that I need to have. So we could define rules, for example, in this case, that services that go under 2 days or less are good, and everything over that should be discarded. Okay. Well, let's take a look at this one. Library books sounds a little bit shady. We're not shipping books, so that service should be excluded up front, right? In some cases, for example, here we have expedited parcel for 27.8, but we have expedited parcel plus with a better rate. Okay. Again, we're not taking a look at the transit time. We might get a better rate, but not a better transit time. So we're going to talk a little about that in a moment as well. In this particular case, FedEx did provide rates as well. FedEx ground would have been the best option here. In fact, it wouldn't be one by Canada Post if library books would be out, because we have 7.91 as the best rate. But the thing is, this is ground and it's taking a long time. Now, let's check this last one where FedEx won. So we have several ways there. Okay, there we go. Quite similar scenario. Now, what we're gonna do right now is, and the takeaway from here is that you can check. It's a really good practice to check your rates and transit times when it comes to sitting down and starting an optimization process of your carriers and rules. You need to know how much you're spending. You need to know how fast you're shipping to be able to sit down and say, well, we're going to leave this service here. We're going to remove that one from there. Right now, what I'm going to do is void this batch, okay? And what I'm going to do is go to the client section. I'm going to go into the carriers and make some changes, okay? Let me void this one as well. I had a loose one there. The regular parcel one, good. We're back to a fresh start. Now, within clients, what I'm going to do right now is go to the Canada Post account. And first of all, I'm going to remove, I'm going to define some rules. Within restrictions, I'm going to go to advanced mode, and I'm going to cherry pick the services I want. So I don't exclude, in this case, we have exclude selected codes, library books, and regular parcel. This is not applying to the case because of some rules that we have. But in this case, I want to move to advanced mode. And I have two ways to approach the way I handle advanced mode. Either deny all the orders matching the criteria that I set, and deny all the orders matching the criteria that I define and allow everything else. This is typically when you want to blacklist services under specific conditions and allow anything else. Or if you want to define a cherry-picked list of services and specific rules for them, you use allow orders matching the criteria below and deny everything else. This is my favorite approach because the rules that I'll define here are expressing what I do need and not what I don't need, okay? In this case, we're rate shopping, so apply for explicit orders won't do. But if you're doing rate shopping and you're also doing specific carrier orders, for example, importing orders via FedEx or UPS explicitly, for the rules to apply, you need to check this box here, apply for explicit orders. When it comes to explicit, it means explicit carrier for that, okay? We can do so as well. Now, when it comes to switching to advanced mode, you're going to see that here we have a list of services. There's an option that says all. So if we wanted to set a really basic service performance option, what I could do is say rate shop all the services, but don't do it always. Okay, let's say that we want to rate shop everything that makes it in 2 days or less. Okay, so I'm going to add a rule for all the services, but not when the condition is always or every single time that I try to rate shop something here. But I want to define a transit time limit for this. So I'm going to use the conditioned estimated delivery days, and I'm going to say less or equal than 2. Okay. I'm going to add this rule here. It's going to choose Canada Post Services, any of them, as long as the delivery days are 2 days or less, the estimated delivery days. Let's save this and go try the rate shopping. Okay, let's try the rate shop again and see what the results are. Let's give it a moment there. We're going to keep reviewing the rules in a moment. Okay. We got an express post where we had regular parcels. So let's review this one. Okay. As you can see now, the results have been cleared out, and the services available here as part of the of valid services for rate shopping are those that make it in 2 days or less. We cleared everything that we had there. We had some with 6 days, 4 days in transit. So by doing this, we have ensured that that's the way we want it. Okay. Now, let's go back. Let's void all this again, and let's go back to the rules to see what else we can improve. Okay. Within here, the conditions for the services, it's a really lengthy list. Okay. If we were to group these in different families, you would have a family based on geographical data, country, postal code, state, ship to information, ship to city, address, even name and company. You could define rules saying, well, if I'm shipping to this ship to destination, say for example for a hospital, don't rate shop ground or don't rate shop services that make it less than that make it in more than 3 days, for example. So over here, if I do ship to company, I could say, well, if the ship to company equals or let's say has the word hospital on it, if I'm shipping medical supplies, right? I'm going to do like over here, use wildcards. So if the ship to company value would be I don't know Red Creek Hospital, or hospital for I don't know, hospital St. Mary's of Her Grace, right? Whichever, regardless of where the word hospital is within the company name, right? We could do something like this. Just ship through any service as long as it makes it in less than 2 days. Delivery days less or equal than 2, right? And this is a consignee specific rule. In this case, we're making it a little bit wider, including any hospital. But you could say, well, for this hospital, we have this agreement and we only want to use some services, right? So in that case, you could say, well, for if it says the word hospital, we're not going to use every service, right? Because, for example, maybe a regular parcel or expedited parcel doesn't cut it on other elements. For example, insurance, cold storage, that sort of elements that might be critical for shipping. So in that case, if I do Express Post, for example, or Expedited Parcel Plus, in that case, I could say, oh, okay, cool. I want to do this. Let's add the hospital there. Company name, ship to company, like. Oh, sorry. And this is for here. There we go. Right? So in this case, I could have rules like these. These might overlap in one condition, but they make a difference on the other. So I could say rate shop all the services whenever. Oh, sorry, I did like here. That would have been the right thing to do. There we go. Rate shop all the services that make it in 2 days or less. Whenever the ship to company is not a hospital, and use Express Post only whenever the transit time is 2 days or less, and I'm shipping to one of the hospitals. Okay, you can start combining all these rules for you to target customer specific needs. Okay, going in what kind of options you have over here. You have again some based on geography, as we just saw. This could also, or your conditions could be based on SKU information, code, description, classification, country of origin, dangerous goods, if you're shipping dangerous goods as well. There's also package information, weights, dimension, description, volume, girth as well. And then you have conditions, or you can set conditions based on the value, days, day of the month, day of the week, current time of the day. For example, don't ship orders if it's over a specific service, if it doesn't make it in this amount of days, and it's Friday after, or I don't know, Thursday after 6, right? 6 p.m. Because as the carrier picks it up and the time in transit is overlapping with the weekend, then that thing is going to sit in a hub for a few days, and we don't want that. Okay. I'm going to show you how to create one of these rules in a moment. And then we also have conditions on rate shopping groups, which are customized groups that you can create, as well as the net carrier or total carrier charge. You could say also, well, if it's over $30, don't use the service. But if it's cheaper than that, please go for it. Okay. I don't want to spend more than $30 on a same day service or on an overnight service. Okay. So you can define that as well. Okay. So let me walk you through some of the most or typically or common cases or scenarios that might be useful. Let's go with FedEx over here. Okay. Let's define this as advanced and allow. Let's add FedEx first overnight, priority overnight, Zoo Express Saver, today AM, and FedEx Ground. We could also add Ground Home we might have the same rules for that. But as you add conditions here, as you can see, the condition by default is going to be always. So always rate shop, first overnight, priority overnight, express saver, 2-day, etc. When you define these rules, my suggestion is that you define all the conditions uh, in batches if possible. Okay. So for example, if I have a service go or a service level for let's say uh 3 days tops. Okay. First of all, I want to add delivery days. Okay, as a condition. And it's going to be much easier to read when you define it and to reconfigure if you do it in batches. So for example, if I already know I want my orders to ship in 3 days stops, I'm going to add these conditions all together to all the options, right? So when I take a look at the rule, as I add more conditions, I'm going to be starting with this base. Oh, everything needs to rate shop. So everything needs to deliver in 3 days or less, right? Now, in some cases, you might have, let's say, for example, um, let's say I have an agreement on my negotiated rates for express saver and 2-day services. Okay, where if I ship over a specific amount of weight, it just shoots off and I lose my edge, my advantage. Okay, so I'm going to add some restrictions on the weight. So I want 2-day express saver and 2-day AM to rate shop or to be considered for rate shop, not only when when it delivers in 3 days or less, but also when it's under 20 pounds. Let's say let's do it 15 pounds. Okay, let's do 20 pounds. So I'm going to add these over here. And I could also say that I want to take second day AM into account as long as the total carrier charge is under $30. Okay, or equal and lower to $29.99. Otherwise, I want 2-day AM. Sorry. Otherwise, I would like any other service. And as you can see, we start building the structure of rules and conditions that we have. For example, for ground, the ground home, it might not be enough that it makes it in 3 days or less. It might be also important close to the weekend. Okay, because for example, first overnight, 3 days or less, that's going to be a fact, right? Otherwise, it wouldn't be first overnight or priority overnight. But for example, 2-day services could take longer for whichever reason, and ground, let alone that we might face that kind of situation. So in that case, I might want to put a day restriction and a time restriction for these services that might have these fringe scenarios of being too close to have an undesired case. So in that case, what I'm going to do here is say, well, current day of the week. So I'm going to say that if it is, I want these to rate shop as long as it's Thursday or earlier. Okay, so I'm going to add this here to Express Saver 2-day AM just in case, and the ground options and the specific time. If it's earlier than, let's say we have 2 pickups throughout the day. Let's say we have a pickup at noon from the carrier and another one after the afternoon shift. So it's kind of 6 p.m. Okay. So now what I'm going to do now is current time of the day. And it's going to be less than, let's say, 1 p.m. All right. So if by the time of processing, the estimated delivery days is less or equal than 3, it's Thursday and it's not later than 1 p.m. and some additional conditions, then I want to rate shop one or the other service. Okay. And given all these, then you could, when it comes to rate shopping, let's save all this. When it comes to rate shopping, just as we said, and as we mentioned in the last slide of the presentation, I can just come over here and press process and print. In fact, right now I'm just processing, but process and print. Or at the desktop client in a packing line, just scan that order, scan the pick ticket, scan whichever reference you're attempting to use, and have the system go for it. Okay. And all these rules are running in the background. I don't need to know them. I don't need to worry about them, and I don't need to think about them at all. The only thing I do care at the packing line is that I get that label printed because I need to ship that order right now. So again, over here, all the results might be limited by the conditions that you set. And processing the orders, processing and printing is as straightforward and easy as always. But there's a lot of logic running in the background, making sure that what we get is what we need in both ways. In terms of from an economical standpoint of trying to grab the cheapest option, but also from the performance standpoint, trying to reach or get what the customers, our customers, need when it comes to their requirements. And to wrap up the presentation, the magic of all this is that everything we've done so far is under the realm of a client and under the realm of a specific billing account profile. Okay. So if you would need, for example, a different, you might need to use the same carrier accounts for other clients, for example, Gates of Atlantis, right? I'm using the same FedEx account. I'm using the same UPS account. Well, doesn't matter because the rules are defined under the client and under that billing account profile. So in that case, Gates of Atlantis might not have the same needs as FZ Ideas has. Maybe FC Ideas is shipping perishables, and it's critical for them to have those time thresholds when it comes to service level. But for Gates of Atlantis, if these guys are shipping board games, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it takes 2 weeks. It doesn't matter if it takes 7 days. Of course, it does matter when it comes to the customer waiting for their stuff. But you might not have to worry about that much if it makes it or if it doesn't make it in this amount of specific days, or if it is Thursday and over 1 p.m. because what you're shipping, these board games might go bad over the weekend sitting in a warehouse or sitting in a hub or distribution point, right? So having these tools at hand allow you to sit down and review your strategy into how you can make the best out of performance and keeping within budget of your shipping cost. Okay. Needless to say, when it comes to defining all these and when it comes to rate shopping, there are many things you can do when it comes to marking up these accounts. Let me show you. Let's see. I think Campar. Yeah, it doesn't have markups here. It's using a markup profile. Let me see which one I have without any markup. Okay. I think this one doesn't have it. No. So we cannot post. Okay. Fee markup 0% here. 0 fixed markup and 0% markup. When you rate shop, you can include your markup in the rate shopping, or you could use the base rates that are coming from the carrier and add the markup later. Okay. But you could also take that into account and add your edge to the rate shopping, saying, well, I don't want to get the rates from the carrier and compare that because I'm actually going to mark it up 20% or 30% or 20% and a fixed fee of 150 for shipping through that carrier for handling fees, for example. Okay. So in that case, you could say, okay, my fee markup is 1.5. So 150 per handle package over this carrier. And the fee markup, I'm doing 20% because let's say I have this edge on my negotiated rates or a little bit more and I'm getting 20% on the market. Now I could choose again to rate shop what's coming from the carrier straight, and then when it comes to handling later, these markups are going to have impact. Or you could say, hey, just rate shop it the way I'm gonna actually charge it to my customer. Okay. So in this case, if I would get $10 rated for a shipment, what I would do, or my the rate I would be comparing and rate shopping, having this option on and these two elements set up here, it's not going to be $10. It's going to be 10 by 120. So we're doing the fee markup percentage. We're inflating it by 20%, and we are adding the 1.5 fixed markup for handling. So in that case, what's going to be rate shopping is not going to be 10, it's going to be 13.5. Okay, comparing to the other carriers. But again, the magic of all this is that you can have this segmentation based on the client, on the billing account profile, and the rules that you set up are also under that realm. In this case, for example, as you can see, for this client, it's just that. It, all the services that make it in less than 2 days. Oh, sorry, 2 days or less. All right. But maybe for someone else, it would be another thing. So, well, this is what we had to share with you. My suggestion when it comes to handling these elements, when it comes to rate shopping, advanced rules, etc., these features are techSHIP Enterprise and techSHIP Plus only, is that you use a need-a-hand assistant, okay? The need-a-hand assistant is directly connected to our knowledge base. There are thousands of articles in there that you can go through and help yourself with when defining all these elements. And the only thing you need to do, for example, is say, well, I want to, let's say that we're defining rules based on transit time, okay? So you just do rules transit time. And this is going to show you a lot of results over here related to that. In this case, let's go with restrictions. Thinking about the first examples that we have, okay? And weight. Okay. So over here, as you can see, there's an article, advanced restrictions, order weight, and package count. And you can either follow these side by side with the open sections to configure everything as we saw before. But these articles have not only step-by-step step-by-step instructions into doing A, B, or C, but also has examples for it. Okay. So for example, in this case, you can try to relate to the examples here with your scenario. Rate shop shipments via air, as long as the weight is under 1 pound, and ground if it equals or is over 1 pound. So over here, you'll have an example into how to set that up, and you can try to match it or emulate it on your side. If it's uncomfortable to read it this way, you can pop it out this way, and it's going to open in a separate tab, so you can follow side by side if you split screen, or you can just swap tabs as you move forward, defining one or the other thing. So again, you can make use of this, or just go straight into the interface if you're acquainted with it and start defining your rules. So thank you for joining today. I hope this has been a useful webinar for you, that you can make the best out of these tools for you to achieve performance and also be cost effective. Well, this webinar is going to be uploaded to our channels. So in case, again, anyone from your organization hasn't been able to attend, this is going to be available online in the next few days. Thank you for your time, and we hope you make the best out of TechSHIP. See you on the next webinar. Bye-bye.